Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Focus on Liberia, broadcast live from Atlanta, Georgia. Today we're talking about your choice in elections 2017. And with me, I have distinct personalities representing some of the top political parties in Liberia, their supporters, well-wishers, and surrogates. First, with me, I have representing the Unity Party, Mr. Saki Golafale. Mr. Golafale, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Saki Golafale is a doctoral student in the Department of Chemistry at Clark University. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from the University of Liberia. Saki has worked in Liberia as an environmental advocate and a chemist. Currently, he's teaching assistant at the University of Liberia and is on study leave. At Clark University, he's also a teaching and research assistant. Mr. Golafale is the treasurer and a member of the board of directors of the University Consortium for Liberia, a non-profit organization that coordinates diverse academic programs among 21 universities and colleges in Liberia and the U.S. Mr. Saki is a firm supporter of Vice President Joseph Newman Boakai in his bid for the presidency. He shares similar views with Mr. Boakai on Liberia's development. Mr. Saki, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Next, we have representing the United People's Party, Mr. Isaac Tumo Setro. Mr. Setro, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jha.
Mr. Isaac Setro is also a graduate of the University of Liberia. He hails from Sino County. He's married with 2 kids. He's a 1986 product of St. Mary Catholic High School in Douala. He matriculated to the University of Liberia in 1987, where he earned a bachelor degree in electrical engineering in 1998. He worked with the Liberian Telecommunication Corporation as an associate engineer. He traveled to the U.S. and where he earned his bachelor in information system and master in public administration from Strayer University. Presently, Mr. Setro works as a senior managing partner and software consultant for the Atlanta Software Group. It should be noted that Mr. Setro is a member of the United People's Party. He served as the party as a district secretary in 1992. In the United States, Mr. Setro served as vice chairman of the Political Action Committee. Currently, he's an active member of UPP based in the USA. Gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything for Liberia, about Liberia, and Liberians. In this edition, we want to talk about elections 2017 and our choice for that election. You know, in the first election was held on September 27 in 1847, where Joseph Jacob Rabel was re-elected. And Liberia, if you remember, we have, there are some who says call Liberia's economy or Liberia's democracy has young democracy. And I always dispute that Liberia democracy is not young. We have had elections since 1847 till now. It should be noted that we are in the Guinness Book of Records for the most fraudulent elections ever held. That was between CDB King and Faulkner. So CDB King, according to reports, there were 15,000 registered votes. Charles D.B. King received 243,000 votes. So that was that. And then we went to the Todman era where there were still elections, even though it was most of the time it was a one-party system. In 1997, first in 1985, there were elections that were won by President Samuel Kanyando. We also had elections in 1997 won by President Charles Taylor. In 2005 and 2011, we had elections, both were won by the current president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I'm saying all this to say this elections we're going into is so consequential. This is the first time the incumbent is not going to be on a ballot. And we have a sitting president who hopefully is going to be retired. And so you have an open field where, as of today's date, the president has not endorsed anyone. So it's so open, it's up for grabs. So welcome to this very important discussion on Focus on Liberia. I want to start with you, Mr. Golafale. You are representing the Unity Party. Just tell me a little bit about your role in the Unity Party and why you think your candidate is the best person to win this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ja. And again, my name is Saki Golafale. I hail from Grand Cape Mount County, Liberia, and I grew up in a family that had high regard for family values. My dad, Dr. Golafale, raised me as a very respectful kid. He impacted into me education and discipline. And for that, I look after people. I go after people who have similar, show similar values and, are educated and they also are disciplined. And that I have seen in Vice President Joseph Boakai. For the number of years I have known him for and his history of public service in Liberia goes as far as 35 years plus. And I think that is something we Liberians have to honor people for their time and commitment to public service. Because my dad worked over 40 years in Liberia as a medical doctor, and he's retired. So, and similar person like Vice President Boakai, he shares similar views like my dad. So I take him to be a father, a dad, and a very respected man and statesman in our country that devoted all of his time working in public sector. And I think working in the public sector is something that we have to take very seriously because it calls for service and commitment. And that's why I see in Vice President Joseph Boakai. And over the years I have known him, I know he's very dedicated and committed to making Liberia a better place for us to live. That's why I see him as the most competent with the experience to lead Liberia for the next 6 years or plus.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that beautiful answer. And now I turn to you, Mr. Isaac Setro. Your candidate, Mr. Alex Wento, is not as popular as Vice President Joseph and Boakai. Tell me a little bit about Mr. Wento and why you think he's best suited to be president of Liberia come October.
Yeah, Mr. McDonald Wento is the standard bearer of the United People's Party. His father is Alexander Wento, a comrade who, during his lifetime, struggled for justice and fair play in Liberia. He worked as a member of PAR during our struggle against the two-way party, one-party system in Liberia. And he had a printing office where he printed all the manifesto of the United People's Party. And his son, McDonald Wento, saw his father working hard in the progressive movement. Mr. McDonald Wento is a founding member of the CDC. We met Comrade McDonald Wento and we saw him as a Liberian who is an entrepreneur. And he has worked hard to fight for equal justice in Liberia and to create a business climate where Liberians can have jobs, to be independent and feed themselves. And we recruited him to the United People's Party. And we elected Mr. Wento as our standard bearer. Mr. Wento has taken the party to another level. Today, UPP has filled enough legislative candidates, which is remarkable in the history of the United People's Party. Mr. Wento brings to the table business experience, a young man who is ready to take Liberia to the next stage, a change that we believe in. The massive corruption in our country as exhibited by the Unity Party is the cause where Liberian people want to change. And I think Mr. Wento is moving in that direction.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Setro. First, you were a member of the United People's Party. I didn't know. Mr. Saki, are you also a member of the Unity Party?
Well, I'm not. Let me make this clear here that the views expressed here are not those of the Unity Party. It's not official views of the Unity Party. I support Ambassador Joseph Boakai. I support the Unity Party. But I'm not a member of the Unity Party.
Thank you. I wanted you to make that disclaimer. Okay. So now, at one point I wrote Liberian political parties are they just faces, or because, well, is there a party platform that we can look at, that you understand, that you think, or is it just a candidate? So my question to both of you is, are you really supporting the United People's Party or the Unity Party, or you are supporting just the candidate? Well, how do you make that distinction? How can we really be able to identify your party's position in the Liberian politics? I start with you, Mr. Setro.
Yeah, first of all, I'm a member of the United People's Party, and the party met at their convention and elected a standard bearer and in person of Mr. McDonald Winter. And I support Mr. McDonald Winter as our standard bearer, and is doing everything to make sure that he's elected on October 10, 2017 to be the next president of Liberia.
Can you briefly summarize the platform or what United People's Party stand for?
Well, the United People's Party stands for a social justice, multi-party democracy, and peace in Liberia. United People's Party in a platform will be looking at various issues. Issue of health care, education, or better sanitation for our people. Something that the Unity Party-led government who ruled Liberia for 12 years has not delivered to the Liberian people. So we want a change in Liberia. We want a new vision, a vision of hope, a vision where common Liberians will not have to travel to the United States or Western country to seek medical attention. We want to see how we can renovate JFK or rehabilitate JFK. We now see that the president of Liberia, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, when she's sick, she traveled abroad. When the common people in Liberia are suffering, they cannot even have health care. So if you elect McDonald Winter, he's going to make sure we work on a program to better our health care so that common Liberians can have a place to take care of their medical situation. So those are the vision we are bringing to the table. We want the Liberian people to see this vision and vote for us.
Thank you. Mr. Golafale, I know you're not a member of the Unity Party, but being a staunch supporter of Mr. VP Boakai, you're familiar with the Unity Party's platform. Can you just summarize for us what the Unity Party stands for, what it intends to do for Liberia that is enshrined in its platform, if you may?
Okay, well, I've been a strong supporter of the Unity Party since 2011, and I still stand by the party, despite not being a member yet. It's not about individual, it's about what the party stands for, and we've seen the party lead Liberia, taking Liberia from scratch, and where we were 11 years ago, today you can see the country. The country is transforming and people's lives are being touched. Okay, there are challenges, and I see that the Unity Party-led government has made sure that Liberians realize the meaning of being a Liberian, and we've made our name, brought back the image of Liberia. We've made sure that infrastructure development, the rule of law, security, and all those things that support building a strong social structure so that our country can become, go back to pre-war or more than pre-war status. So most of the development you see in Liberia over the last 11 and a half years, we didn't see those developments prior to the ascendancy of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in 2006. And as a matter of fact, her second in command, Ambassador Joseph Boakai, whose leadership has helped to shape things the way it is today. And I think the platform of the Unity Party-led government is from 2006 to 2011 has been, implemented. But so I won't be the one to explain, to tell you the platform, because I'm now official of the Unity Party. The campaign launch will be on September 16, and at that time, the Liberian people will know what the Unity Party-led government has in package for them. But I will give you what I expect, to see in the next 6 years once Ambassador Joseph Walker is elected on October 10th.
Thank you. Most of the time, when you give the wrong diagnosis to a problem, or when you wrongly diagnose an issue, it is more likely that you're going to misdiagnose it. Okay, we have Liberia where there are so many issues that are confronting the country. In your view, and I want you to go first, Mr. Setro, in your view, what is Liberia's major problem, and how do you think your candidate, Mr. Alexander Wento, can fix that, or a United People's Party-led government can fix that problem?
Yeah, I would think that Liberia's most major problem is corruption. Corruption has made Liberia not to progress in terms of development. And one of the ways the United People's Party will deliver after the election on October 10th, if we win the election, is by putting into place structure that will minimize corruption. We cannot say we'll eradicate corruption in a totality, but we can minimize corruption and try to bring development, try to take care of issues like healthcare, education. And corruption is massive in the Unity Party-led government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Joseph Walker. And that's the reason Liberian people should think twice about voting for Joseph Walker, who has stayed in the government that promoted corruption. Look at NOCA, the National Oil Company of Liberia. It has gone bankrupt. Where are the money? So Liberian people should think twice. If you elect UPP, we're going to make sure we put into place a whistleblower system where people in government will report corruption at every level. And we're going to make sure we have at every ministry inspector general who will make sure they monitor the activity of public officials, so that if they are caught taking the Liberian poor money, will bring them to justice. And will empower the good government, the Anti-Corruption Commission, to make sure we give them judicial power so that they can help the Ministry of Justice in prosecuting people who are corrupt officials, which is unlike the present administration of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Joseph Walker.
Mr. Setro, before you go any further, you talk about corruption, and I want to drill on that a little bit. Yeah. What, in your view, why do you think people are corrupt, and how can a UPP-led government change that? Because that's a problem, but what is causing it, and how can you tackle that under a United People's Party government?
Yeah, people are corrupt because people are poor, and because you have a leadership who has not taken a stand on minimizing corruption. And one of the ways UPP is going to attack that is to make sure that we provide a better incentive for public officials, but at the same time put into place mechanism where we're going to make sure we punish any public official who steal government money. We're going to institute a whistleblowing system, like I said previously, to report corrupt activity. Look, Mr. Jha, I was in Liberia in the 90s, and I saw some practices of corruption where you have a businessman writing fictitious voucher to the Ministry of Finance, and they don't provide goods and services, and you have the appropriate signatures of government signing those vouchers for them to get money where goods and services are not provided to government to improve the life of the Liberian people. We need to make sure we put the mechanism to catch your businessmen and make sure they don't get 10% to government officials, so that we can build our country.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will get back on the problem, the issue of corruption, because it's a major issue confronting not just Liberia but most developing countries. But I turn to you, Mr. Golafale. In your view, what do you think Liberia's major problem is, and how can a Boakai government fix that issue?
And as my colleague rightly said, corruption is a major problem. And that's one of the major problems, okay? And every problem has a share in this whole pile of our problems. So, but a lot of people say that Unity Party-led government. One of the things that people need to be very, 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 informed about is the Unity Party government did not create a corrupt Liberia. They did not create a Liberia with broken system. All of these things, all of the ills you see today, we met them. The government met those things, and they try to put mechanisms in place to make sure that we address the problems of Liberians. Years before 2006, the Liberia you see today, you didn't have the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. You didn't have the General Auditing Bureau. Those are institutions that have been empowered by law to fight corruption. And if you want to fight corruption, you can't just get up to go fight corruption. You have to have legislative power. So fighting corruption by building institutions to fight the ills is a step. It's one of the first steps to fight corruption. So if someone says the Unity Party government promote corruption, I think that's a disservice, and it's not something that any Liberian would think seriously. That we did not. The Unity Party government did not promote corruption. The Unity Party government has fought corruption for the last 11 and a half years by creating anti-corruption institutions. And one of the things that also people need to consider is that the level of awareness. One of the first ways to fight ills is to be aware of the ills. And I think that's what the Unity Party government can boast of. All right? And so, was there another question?
No, let me just go to you on that, because the Unity Party government has been in power for pretty close to 12 years now. Yeah. Okay, and you've talked about all these institutions that they've put into place. There's one thing setting up an institution, and there's another thing actually accepting the whatever they come up with. The example is the anti-corruption group. I don't know to what extent that whatever the recommendations are being enforced. We talk about other commissions that were set up, even starting with the General Auditing Commission, starting with the Truth and Reconciliation. So all these groups are always put together. To what extent has the Unity Party government actually enforced those recommendations that they have come up with?
Yeah, so that's why Ambassador Boakai has told the Liberian people that in order to make to fight corruption, these institutions are already been established. And one thing that he will ensure that he has ensured Liberians will do is to institute a fast-track court. And that, I think, can help the process of fighting corruption. And justice system is not just when someone is accused and then you go and get the person. It's a process. Our justice system is also being seriously worked on. There are problems, but those problems can be solved. The issue of corruption, Ambassador Boakai said it, and I will remind people that under his leadership, he will create and ensure a fast-track process. And also public institutions will have to give account to the people. That's one of the things he mentioned during the debate. And I know a lot of people heard that. So that's part of creating transparency. So to fight corruption is now one man's thing. It should be an institutionalized effort. Everyone has to be involved. So it's not under the Unity Party-led government. In the legislature, you have people of different parties. In the government, we have people of inclusion. We have government inclusion, a lot of people in. So it's a Liberian's problem, it's a Liberian effort. And we'll fight it once Ambassador Joseph Boakai is elected.
If you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is a program, a weekly, every Sunday at 7 o'clock. Right here from Atlanta. And with me, I have Mr. Saki Golafale representing the Unity Party. I also have Mr. Isaac Setro representing the United People's Party. At this time, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
is your home.
Anything that I do,
Liberia is my home.
anything that you do,
Liberia is your home.
Mama oh, Papa oh, sister oh, my brother oh. Divided we fall, united we shall stay. We are all representatives and ambassadors for this great breaking nation, Liberia, yeah. Liberia, 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 Liberia is my home. 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 Liberia is my Maritza says Liberia is his home. The council Rabo says Liberia is his home. Zach Rabo says Liberia is his home. ZTT says Liberia is her home. Why you passing with Liberia in his heart? Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Papa oh, Liberia is my home. Mama oh, Liberia is my home. Papa oh, Liberia is my home. Mama oh, Liberia is my home. Anywhere you go, anything that you do, let your actions reflect positive image of Liberia.
Many times people ask me, where do you come
Sister oh, my brother oh,
from? And I say,
Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home.
anywhere that I go,
Liberia is my home.
anywhere that you go,
Liberia is your home.
anything that I do,
Liberia is my home.
anything that you do,
Liberia is your home.
Mama oh, Papa oh, sister oh, my brother oh.
show which highlights issues on Liberia, about Liberia and Liberians. We are broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight we are discussing elections 2017 and your choice. With me I have representing the Unity Party, Mr. Saki Golafale, and also Mr. Isaac Tumon Setro, representing the United People's Party. Gentlemen, welcome back. And to those watching us by television across the globe, we say welcome to Focus on Liberia. Guys, let's come back to our discussion, and this time, Liberians are poor. It's no joke about that. Okay, some say we live, the poverty. There are a lot of people that live below the poverty line, even though I don't know what the poverty line is in Liberia. But in your view, why are Liberians poor, and how can we fix that issue under either a Unity Party government or a UPP government? Mr. Golafale, you go first.
Yeah, Mr. Jai, you see, we need to look at the fundamental problems that contributed to people being poor. All right, prior to the war, we know what Liberia was like. And after the war, if one would consider my age group during the war, most of those of my age group were either holding arms or they were separated from their families. And very few of us took the opportunity to go back to school, continue going to school. And after the war, there were a lot of hopes, and very few people who had the education and skills were absorbed into the job market. And the bulk of the population, people displaced, people separated from families, and a lot of things, and people unskilled and unlabored, underemployed, people unskilled, uneducated. They wanted to see themselves excelling, but the opportunities were not there. So the Unity Party-led government came in and was faced with this huge number of unemployed people, unskilled people. And what has been done over the years to solve the problem of alleviating poverty is to make sure that people are educated, people are skilled, people are given the necessary skills and opportunities to alleviate them out of poverty. And some of the things that if you can compare between the last 11 and a half years to now, you will know that a lot of things have happened in the education sector. People have found opportunities to find jobs. The Moravia Vocational Training Center was restructured. The Chinese government has been very helpful to make sure that a lot of Liberians get skills, vocational training skills. Higher education-wise, the University of Liberia, decentralization of education, of higher education, community colleges have been established. So all of these things have helped to empower people to become educated and find jobs that suit them so that they can get out of poverty. But the challenges are still there, and we're working on those challenges. That's why it is important that someone who's experienced, well experienced, who understands the problem like Ambassador Joseph Boakai, be elected on October 10th.
The same question to you, Mr. Setro. Why are Liberians poor, and what will Mr. Wento and the United People's Party government do to fix that issue?
Yeah, like I said, Liberians are poor because of corruption. Government has not redistributed the wealth of our country, which has made our people to live in poverty. One of the things government got to do is to redistribute the wealth, create jobs, create an enabling environment for the private sector to excel. But you have for a country, look in the Unity Party-led government. Look at the amount of money they pay legislators and government officials. I mean, and look at the GDP of the country. The country, our budget cannot pay those politicians. But the government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Joseph Boakai have decided to pay them exorbitantly, thereby leaving the Liberian people to starve. No drinking water, no proper sanitation, poor educational system. The other day we learned in Liberia 25,000 Liberian students failed the national exam. So these are the problems we are faced with. Corruption, we get poverty. So therefore, other areas of government that should be functioning to provide services to uplift our people are not available. Now, the UPP-led government will do a better job in improving the life of the Liberian people by minimizing corruption, by making sure that those who are caught involved in corruption will not work in the country if they are found guilty by the judicial system. Mr. Jah, we need to be very, very clear and tell public officials, when you are caught stealing Liberian people money, you cannot work in the Liberian system, so that they can what? Be careful. We need to help our people. The Liberian people, you have to vote your choice, but vote your conscience and vote for people who are ready to bring about a change. And McDonald went to a young Liberian businessman, a man who has worked hard, make sure that he used the system of Liberia to get money and employ Liberians in the logging system, build schools, and other things will help the Liberian people by improving their life if he's elected on October 10th.
Yeah, Mr. Judge, just a comment on what Mr. Secretary talked about, people, what he talked about corruption and the municipality-led government chose to pay people. The salary of lawmakers is by law. It's not just anyone's choice to go and pay someone. So you must understand that anything that is done within the government is not done by someone because of my opinion. I just think on doing something. Everything is documented and is by law. You follow that, you understand how the budget is made, how the legislature pass the budget into law and goes to the president, and then implementation starts. So the issue of salary disparity is very important. That will be addressed, and Ambassador Boakai did address that during the debate, and we know that that's going to be something very important in the next government. People have to be paid not exorbitantly. I'm not in favor of high salaries. And the issue of people are suffering. The UP-led government did not inherit all of the things you're talking about. And the government inherited a broken country, completely broken. And we've been very successful in trying to restore some of the order, put our basic social services, electricity. Right now, the power supply, the hydro is almost to completion. Last year in December, the president launched the opening of the power, the completion of the project. From the pre-war status of 54 megawatts to 84 megawatts. So electricity, road construction, the Swakoko Highway, to give people access to road, farm to market road, and to make people, businesses boom. The Swakoko Road from Monrovia to Ganta to the Guinea border. Think about it. But my colleague will sit there and say the government has done nothing. We have to be grateful that the government inherited a completely rotten, broken country, seriously corrupt. And for that, it was difficult to get all of these structures that connect to enhance growth, to put them together that are so broken. It wasn't a normal situation. All right, like you will inherit the country, right? I mean, a country in 1980, when the next government came in, the country was not as it was in 2006. So there were smooth things could work easily, implementation could go on very easily. Then now, all right, we have to consider the effect of the war is going to haunt us continuously until we reach a point where we'll forget completely of the war and we focus on rebuilding the country. But the effect of the war is still haunting us. A lot of our social structures are still broken, and we're still trying our best to get them to work, to make them functional, so that the average Liberian can feel like he's a Liberian.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to come in to debunk some of Mr. Saki's analysis.
Go ahead.
I agree that we came from a failed state under Mr. Charles Taylor, and President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected. But she has governed almost for 11 years, and our people have no safe drinking water. Why? Because of failed policy. She has governed and then our people don't have a good healthcare system for almost 11 years, including our Vice President Bwaka. So how are we sure that if we give our Vice President Bwaka another 6 years, he will deliver? So there is time for a change. There is time for a change. And on the issue of paying a public official exorbitantly, the president signed the bill. She should have stood on the side of the Liberian people, say, I'm not going to sign any bill that will make you make about $15,000 per month when the average Liberian are suffering. We would have rallied to her call, but she signed the bill into law, so it means she was part and parcel of paying public officials exorbitantly at the expense of the suffering masses of our country. There is time for a change, my fellow Liberians. And the United People's Party will offer you a good deal.
You should understand, you should try to understand that civil servants were making far less than what they're making today. So that is an improvement.
All right. And I want us to go more into what your party's, what's your party's view on some of these things. Like you already started with corruption, and we talk about the salaries. So, Bwaka-led government or Iwento-led government, what's your party's view when it comes to salary reduction of these people, especially the top people in our legislators, the office of the president, the vice president, also the judiciary? I remember when President Salif took office, I think the rationale behind paying people high salary was to combat corruption, thinking that when people are paid, are well paid, they're not going to steal the money. I don't know where, to what extent that has been realized. But what's your party's view when it comes to this salary thing? Reduction in salaries.
Yeah, you see, Ambassador Joseph Bwaka clearly stated that salary reduction is not the only issue, okay? We have to look at when people are out of government service. Those are things that we have to consider in line with salary reduction, all right? How is a government servant, when he's out of government, what is he going to be doing, all right? So we have to consider after service.
Retirement.
Service, yeah. So there are a lot of parameters that surround salary reduction. It's something that's arguable. So when we reach to that point, I believe strongly that I expect Vice President Bwaka, once he's elected, the issue of salary reduction will be a very important part of his agenda to address. So I think not only looking at cutting down salary, but other factors that surround people's livelihood when they are out of service.
Mr. Setro?
Yeah, Mr. Jack, thank you for that question. I think with respect to salary reduction, the United People's Party in their Green Book, which has been published, will make sure we reduce the salary of public officials so that they can live a better life, but not to pay them exorbitantly. Let's say, for example, a representative making $15,000, we'll try to make sure that representative makes $6,000 per month, so that the other money can go into programs that will help the Liberian people. Because the country has a budget of approximately around $500 million. So if you're paying a representative of $15,000 and a senator $15,000 with other benefits, what will be left for the Liberian people? So those are one of the areas we'll attack. We'll reduce that salary so that money from there will go into programs like for healthcare, for education, and for what? Better sanitation. Mr. Jack.
Thank you. Still on your party's view or what your standard bearer going to do, let's talk about reducing the term of office. Is this something for the president, the senators, and legislators? What is the Bwaka's position on that?
Well, I think we have to consider what the Constitution says about reducing presidential term. It has to go through a constitutional process, the issue of referendum. So I can tell you that Ambassador Bwaka is going to be very straight and tell you this is what's going to happen, because you cannot do it. The Constitution demands that it has to be referendum. And on the other hand, I support the act of reducing presidential term, but I also support if we can create conditions for a third term. Take for example, go back and a lot of people consider Tolbert as one of the most successful presidents. And if Joseph Walker runs for 2 terms, and people like him, people love him, they see development, they see progress. When you want to see him the next term, there has to be condition. If we have 4 years or 6 years cut down to 4 years, that's my opinion. We might want to create condition for referendum for third term. If indeed the people love their leader, they will definitely do that. All right, I'm saying that's my opinion. Right.
But not the Unity Party.
No, that's not the Unity Party. I'm saying if there's an issue for reducing the term, there has to be condition that if the person wants to run for the third term and the people want to see him taking the country to another level, we should give him an opportunity.
Let me push you a little bit on that, because what happened in especially in developing countries, where people think that I'm doing well and so let me continue. But okay, that people are doing well, say, because whoever is in power is always in the process of manipulating the system. So if you say you want to, give them, because Mugabe is doing the same, say my people like me, so they are re-electing me. I read your stats of our previous elections. We were re-electing Totma every year because the people liked him. But did the people really?
I mean, that's my opinion, and if it doesn't fit well into what can progress, make the country progress, that can be, accepted. But I'm saying if the opportunity can be provided for people to seek third term,
right,
if the presidential term is cut down to from 6 to 3 or 4, there's no problem.
And hold that thought as we go to our caller. We have a caller on the line.
Go ahead. Yeah, my name is George Preston Virginia, and I'm calling from Phoenix, Arizona.
Thank you, George. Your question, please, or comment.
Basically, not a question. First of all, I want to comment about your your brother in there, the honorable young professor in there. I think I want to discuss on something real quick. I listened to I'm making a comment real quick. I listened to the guy from the opposition who was just talking about reducing lawmakers' salary to 6,000. I think the issue of income disparity in Liberia is something that we all
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you. And yes, the question is mainly about what the view is. We understand that there is a process in reducing salaries, in reducing the term of office for the president and the legislators, and also, but we're just talking about how, what the view is concerning that. The second thing I want to talk on is your party's view. But before we get to what is your party's view on fighting crimes, growing the economy, reducing urban migration, improving the educational system, as well as the health system. But at this time, we're going to go on a short commercial break. Again, you are watching Focus on Liberia, where we are discussing your choice election 2017.
Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home.
Anywhere that I go,
Liberia is my home.
anywhere that you go,
Liberia is your home.
anything that I do,
Liberia is my home.
anything that you do,
Liberia is your home.
Mama oh, Papa oh, sister oh, my brother oh. Divided we fall, united we shall stay. We are all representatives and ambassadors for this great African nation, Liberia, yeah. Liberia, 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 Liberia is my home. 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 Liberia is my everything that you do. Let your actions reflect positive image of Liberia.
Many times people ask me, where do you come from? And I say,
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia, a weekly interactive live TV show highlighting issues and developments about Liberia, Liberians, and by Liberians. Welcome again. We're discussing elections 2017, and Mr. Golafale, let's start with you. We want to know your party's view when it comes to growing the economy. Everything is economic, so what is Mr. Boakai's view on growing the economy, or the Unity Party government view?
Yeah, and I think the Ambassador Joseph Boakai has made it clear to Liberians that his priority will be road, and roads. And I think Liberians are seeing what Ambassador Boakai has said recently. The government's priority, one of the government's priority has been roads, and that is evidenced by what you see in the country right now. The road development, urban to rural road development, has been on the increase.
So how is that linked to the growth of the economy?
Good. How does that link to the growth of the economy? Roads enhance businesses, or farm to market road. How people bring their produce to the market. You need road. You need access to road, and you need to move from one end to another without any problems on the road like we used to have. If you look at the Swakoko Road, the Swakoko Highway from Monrovia to Ganta to the Guinea border, it's been constructed. It's been paved, well paved. People are satisfied. Businesses are booming. Go to Ganta and see. See the development in the city of Ganta. Hotels have been built. Businesses are booming. The city is lighted up. So that's one of the things that road development enhances economic growth, and it reduces poverty also, because farmers going to get their produce to the market very easily with access to good roads. So another development that is currently ongoing is the Zwedru to Hapo Highway. You know, the southeastern where you come from. So
how do you know that?
Oh yeah, you told me where you come from. So that is going to enhance and promote economic activities. People are going to go back, and one of your concerns about urban migration, that's going to reduce urban migration, because people see that once they can have access to their farms and businesses in the rural area, I think they will prefer staying back, because Monrovia is very popular. Monrovia can host about 500,000 people. It's more than almost 2 million people.
Right.
So I think road development is one of the most important priority that the Joseph Boakai-led government is going to stick to, so that people can be relieved out of poverty, businesses can boom, a lot of things can happen.
And Mr. Setro, I've come from a part of Sino County where that was only connected by road in 1987. Okay, so we found out that there is a lot of people leaving the southeast going to Monrovia. There's a rural urban migration. If you look in Monrovia, the settlements, New Crew Town, Logan Town, was the West Point, and or is the other place? These are all settlements of people from the southeast. What would the UPP-led government do to reduce this rural-urban migration?
Well, Mr. Jad, the UPP-led government will try to make sure first we prioritize our road construction, and to do that, make sure we put it in the budget, and make sure we because it's very essential to farm to market operation. Our people, like you said, there's no road from Buchanan to Sando County. Why? It's because the United Party-led government has not prioritized it. 11 years in power. Our people cannot even travel from Banga to Lofa County, to Ganta, bad road condition. It's because this government has not prioritized decentralizing the activity of government.
Are you saying if the road from Greenville to Monrovia is complete, people will stay in Sino County now and not move to Monrovia? How is that?
Majority of the people will stay in Sino County.
Why so?
Because they will be able to engage in farming, and then you will have businesses trying to establish businesses in Greenville City. Greenville City has support. And the problem with the economic situation in our country is the electric power system. Look at the electric grid that was constructed by the Unity Party-led government. Low capacity. I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. We studied the idea of feasibility study on the grid, the capacity. And it was very low. So that they cannot supply Monrovia and its environment. You have to increase the capacity of the electric grid. And you make businesses to be encouraged to invest in the country because they don't have to pay too much electric bill. And they can go into the rural area and establish businesses like, you talk about Lamco, you talk about Kari, you talk about La. These are things that when we have electric power supplied by government at a cheaper rate, you encourage businesses. Mr. Jack?
Thank you.
So just to follow up on that question about urban migration.
Right.
And if you look at the education sector right now, what the government has been able to do is to decentralize tertiary education. We see community colleges coming up, the Bon Community College, the Basel Community College. And if you look at the current enrollment at the University of Liberia, it was about 30,000 some years back, but now it's in the 20,000 because people, the Stroud St. James College is absorbing people. So those are the factors that's going to enhance to reduce urban migration.
That's a good point.
He also talked about Banga to Ganta road. The road is paved. People are happy moving about. All right. You can have. I mean, the government has been doing things holistically. There are a lot of challenges that the government has been meeting. You cannot do all the roads at the same time. All right. Monrovia to Buchanan Highway. Look at it. If you're not gone there, you go and see the road. Monrovia to Ganta to Guinea border. The Harper to the Zwerju to Harper road is currently ongoing. So there are a lot of things about road development that's going on, but people are not well informed, so they're going to tell you anything that's any wrong information they're going to give here. So people have to be very informed. My senior brother Setro has to be well informed as to what is going on presently in Liberia.
All right.
The government is on the right trajectory to make sure people be happy.
Thank you, Mr. Golapa. Just hold that thought. We want to go to our call. We want to go to Facebook. We have some questions and comments on Facebook, and we want to call our co-host Stephanie. Stephanie, go ahead, and Stephanie going to read some questions from our Facebook.
Okay, we have a Facebook question from Samuel Swancombe Jr. It's to my husband. The UPP candidate is one of the least talked about, so he may not even have the opportunity to do his salary deduction. However, my question is, if the UPP were to win these elections, how would salary deduction reduce poverty in Liberia? What would be the economic benefits to the generality of the Liberian people?
Mr. Setro.
Yeah, Mr. Kuhn, it's a simple question. If UPP wins the election on October 10, 2017, We want to make sure we have all Liberian conference, that will discuss the short-term and long-range plan for Liberia. Looking at the salary reduction initiative as a priority, we'll put it in the short-term conference where stakeholders will come and we tell them, look at our budget. I mean, our people are struggling, our people are dying. We need to reduce our salary. We are asking you to take into consideration. Yeah.
His main question is, your candidate has little or no chance in becoming president. So speak to that.
How Mr. Swen would know my candidate has no chance?
He said he's the least talked about.
There has been no scientific poll to show or poll to show that he's among the least candidates. Or the United People's Party is second among the parties that are producing a candidate for representative elections, next to the ANC. So how can they say that UPP has no chance? The Liberian people will decide on October 10th. McDonald Winter is a new breed, or a businessman who has employed a lot of Liberians within the southeastern region, and he has developed schools to help educate the Liberian children. So Liberian people will decide on October 10th. And Mr. Kuhn, we want you to come back to the United People's Party and join us in making sure we can build a better Liberia.
Stephanie, do we have more questions there and comments?
We do have a question from Mr. Tueto Songe.
Okay, we have a question here from Mr. Tiro Songbe, and we'll call on Stephanie to...
Okay. I've asked him to elaborate, but he said, what are the challenges? He didn't direct it to anybody in specific, so he's just asking, what are the challenges?
Okay. Let's, Liberia has a lot of challenges, so...
I think we talk about one of the challenges that we call problems, corruption. All right. And one of the things that Ambassador Boaka stressed that people need to take very important is the lack of discipline. The lack of fiscal discipline has caused a lot of problems for us. It's not only fiscal discipline, it's the way people conduct themselves. And I think that's one of the things that distinguishes Ambassador Boaka from the rest of the candidates. He has laid an exemplary life, and that which Liberian people want to, the kind of person Liberian people want to be their leader. And the issue of fiscal discipline and also in other interdisciplinary, problems people have been faced. People are currently in Liberia. The problems are enormous.
Right.
People don't go to work. A lot of people don't go to work on time. We don't have check and balance on how people conduct themselves. So those are a lot of things that contribute to malpractices. So yeah,
Mr. Saki.
Yeah.
Mr. Joseph Newman Boakai, he's been vice president for some time now.
Yeah.
And he's president of the Senate. Yeah. He's also vice president. He has described himself as a race car that has been parked for 12 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, why is this car being parked, man?
Yeah, you see, everyone has his interpretation of the vice president's comment of the car being parked. And let me lay that to rest. I know people will still talk about it. But when the vice president said the car has been parked, that simply means that he has limited role as vice president. His role is limited. He cannot do the president's job. So because of his limited role as president of the Senate and the vice president, he has not gone off his constitutional duty. Has he, let anyone come up, I can bet, has he gone off his constitutional duty as vice president? No. That is what Liberian people should have problem with if the vice president goes off his constitutional duty. All right? But if you want the vice president to do the president's job, no, that's not going to work. He takes order from the president, and he's the vice president. That's why he meant when he said he's a car parked in the garage. I mean, he has limited responsibilities.
So, of the things that the vice president is supposed to be doing, what can VP Boaka boast of as his achievement under being the vice president of the Republic of Liberia?
Well, it's not only being vice president. We go back to the records of the vice president. He served as the first managing director of the LPMC from 1980 to 1982. The records are there that under his leadership as managing director of LPMC, he managed a program that was funded by USAID, the American government, called PL 8480. The PL 840 was meant to help developing countries like Liberia in food production. And USAID report is there. Go and check it out. From 1980 to 1982, Ambassador Boakai professionally took our agriculture sector to another level. That he was subsequently appointed as Minister of Agriculture, and he worked from 1980 to 1985 successfully in the agriculture sector, and that has been recorded. The records are there. So based on that, Liberians see that as an experience that can be counted on. And as Vice President, and a couple of all his other experiences working in Liberia, he has worked along with his boss, Mount Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, to take Liberia from scratch. From where we were 2006 to today where we are, it's quite different. Educationally, we have our institutions are being empowered. Our tertiary institutions, we have state-run universities that are functional. They're no longer shut down of state-run universities. And as Ambassador Boakai has been in the forefront to make sure that the Unity Party-led government plans and agenda are achieved. So as you can see right now today, we have, he was talking about the hydropower, we had 54 megawatts of the power plant. Today we have 84 that will be functional very soon. And we have the regional power plant from Ivory Coast, Guinea, counties like the Grand Jide, part of Nimba and the southeastern area going to enjoy power from other regional areas, not only from Monrovia or the Mount Coffee. So the government is working to make sure that people live happily, okay, in spite of all the challenges. So we must look at the facts and face the fact that these are the things that the government have done over the years.
Right.
The gains have been made, and it's not only Ellen Johnson Sirleaf alone. It's the vice president. It's a very successful leadership.
Right, but what I see here is VP Boakai is quick to take credit for the good things that are happening, but when it comes to the negative ones, then he say he's in the garage.
No, the garage thing, I think I explained it. I told you about the garage thing.
All right.
It's just a saying for you to understand that his role is
limited. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And before we go to our Facebook, Mr. Setro, your candidate, Mr. Wento, has little or no experience working in government. I mean, why do you want, with like 20 candidates or more, why do you want us to try someone who has no experience working in the Liberian government or government anywhere else?
That's a good question, Mr. Ja, and I'd like to tell you that Mr. Winto, as a young Liberian, came from Europe, established his business, and has made enormous progress in employing Liberians. He's going to create jobs for Liberians. He's going to work with a team of experts like me, who has a master's degree in public administration and an engineering background, to make sure we deliver the goods for the Liberian people. So he's not going to be work with people who don't have knowledge as it relates to running government. He has skill from the business sector. He's going to work with people who know public policy and how to adapt public policy that will promote the life of the Liberian people. But let me get to Mr. Boakai, who has failed the Liberian people in the United Party-led government. They came up with a 50 megawatt electric grid that cannot supply Monrovia and the environment. Our people are in darkness. How many years do we need to give the Unity Party-led government another chance to lead our people into what? Poverty, darkness, and a dark era in Liberia? It's time for a change, my fellow Liberians. It's time for you to look in the mirror and say, where I am, I'm out suffering. If you're happy, go with Boakai. But if you want improvement in your life, go for New Deal. McDonald Winter of the United People's Party is going to come and bring jobs for the Liberian people, my people.
Okay. At this time, we want to go to our Facebook group, and we call Stephanie.
Okay, we have a lot of questions. Mr. Tueto Sungbe, I've asked him to call in since he's got a lot of questions for us. Let me see. Samuel Lomax, can VP also take responsibility of the massive failure of this government?
Mr. Gulafale. Has
Yeah.
the Unity Party government failed in some areas? If yes, can the VP take responsibility?
Well, the issue of failure, we cannot attribute, we cannot, I mean, in failure and success, they go hand in hand sometimes, okay? In as much as you claim success, you have to claim failure. All right, we failed in some areas, but we've gained in some other areas, and that which I think my brother has to make note of, that we gained a lot in areas, we failed in areas. And the president rightly said it during her State of the Nation address, that we failed in reconciliation, we failed in corruption. It is a collective effort. We've succeeded in some areas, it's also a collective effort. Not one person has succeeded, it's the whole Liberia has succeeded in some areas. And not one person has failed, it's the whole Liberia has failed in areas. So we cannot stick failure on few people. We cannot single people out and stick failure on them. We all have failed as a nation in certain respect, and we are also gained. So that is very important.
Thank you. We go back to Stephanie for Facebook.
Okay, we have our last question from Facebook. My question is, and this is from Jocelyn Setu Chele Jr. My question is, where is the change when most of the politicians have served in this very government, from ministerial level to directorship?
That's a question, and well, you want to take that?
Yeah, I want to take that on. Well, my candidate, Mr. Winto, has not served in government in Liberia. He's a young Liberian who traveled to Europe, and after working hard in Europe, came back to Liberia and started investing his money into creating Liberian businesses. So you have a Liberian who are entrepreneur, who are trying to take Liberia to the next level. And they want this change. This change is about economic growth, economic empowerment, building institutions so that our people cannot live in poverty. Vote October 10, 2017 for McDonald Winter of the United People's Party for a clean slate. Progress.
Okay, Mr. Saki Golafale.
And I think that the Liberian people have set the bar. In 2005, they elected Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. In 2006, they re-elected her. They set the bar, they've set the standard that experience. And experience goes with what? Integrity, public service. So that's what my colleague Kennedy lacked. So the issue of experience. And Liberians need people who are well experienced to lead the country. Government is not a business. Government is not a private sector. It's a public job. So there are a lot of challenges, and we need people with experience. And Ambassador Joseph Boakai, he has wealth of experience, the level of judgment, and everything. That's what we need to lead the country.
And gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for a spirited discussion. We want to thank our folks watching by television. We want to say thank you to those who have called in and commented on Facebook. At this time, we also want to thank TV International. We want to thank our co-producers and co-hosts. That's Yasendi Martin Peye and Mrs. Stephanie Setro. Thank you so much for this time. At this time, this is focused on Liberia, about Liberia and for Liberia. So we want to make this all Liberian. So at this time, I want to talk to my guest. Just one last thing. Mr. Saki Golafale here from Cape Mount, and he wants to just use one or two sentences to summarize for the listeners what he's been talking about, but in a Liberian language. Mr. Golafale, take it away from me.
Yeah, Bakaka, Namwanu Mumba Bay, Vemonuka, and Lana, Mbe Femeka na Vewa, the one of Bay. Ya Kaimuso, I thought Joseph Boakai. Joseph Boakai, Momu, a country, a soccer, Bome Kwa. So, we put Joseph Boakai Kwa. Joseph Boakai, Mombena. Komuna Fonia, where we are, we put Joseph Boakai Kwa October 10. Ya voter KFA, Abenu number 1. Kaibimu, we put Aqua. So, Baka, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanda Golafale. Mr. Kanda, Mr. Saki Golafale. I'm sorry. Kanda Golafale was my friend. And this time, I wonder, for this segment in Liberia, when you go to Liberia, you're going to listen to a Liberian proverb. Our proverb of the day is, if you were not there when the person is taking bath, look when the person is applying the lotion. That's a Liberian proverb. Mr. Setro, your last word.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Are you in the Liberian language, man? Come on. This is Liberia.
Yeah, or probably the next time I will try to speak our dialect, but at this time, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Ja, for hosting this interesting discussion. Mr. Saki, I'm happy that you are here to propound your view, and the co-host and our own brother Patrick from TV International. Well, my fellow Liberians, on October 10, you will have a decision to make. And search your heart and vote for economic empowerment, jobs, and to end poverty. Vote Madonna Wintour of the United People's Party for a change in your life. Thank you.
Until next time, I'm your host, Dennis Ja. Thanks for watching. And say good night and God bless.